Good afternoon, hello, welcome to the TriathlonDan YouTube channel. Welcome to a video where I'm going to dissect my Outlaw X 2022 performance, and I'm going to call it performance. I'm going to be talking about what went well, what didn't go well, and a few of the numbers behind that. Well done if you took part in the event. Thanks to all the volunteers who made the event happen. Really looking forward to sharing this information with you and hopefully you get something from it. Before I get into that, however, I've got a list so you know it's serious. Firstly, if you're looking for a social training group this winter, online socials with sessions, Zoom calls, structured training, swim, bike, run, written by an actual professional coach, not me, please do check out the Send It Squad down below. The applications close this Friday and we start next Monday, the 3rd of October. I'm so excited for it. I know it's going to be brilliant. Please do put your name down if you are interested. Matt and I cannot wait to get started. Like and subscribe written down here, I need to tell you to do. So make sure you do that, please. It's on the list. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about my race today. Then in tomorrow's video, I'm going to be talking about what I'm going to be doing next year, whether it's triathlon, whether it's bike racing, what I'm doing. Because I know what I'm doing now. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know what I'm doing. Get it? Okay, good. Let's get started. So the day started with a swim as per normal triathlon protocol. It had been shortened to 750 meters, as many of you might know, because the temperature is quite cold. I believe this decision was based on both the water and air temperature, but I don't really know. But either way, the swim was shorter. Now, this didn't really affect me too much, to be honest, because I'm not known as a swimmer, so well, that means I'm not very good. So I wasn't too forced, and I feel for those who had set out to do perhaps their first middle distance triathlon or half Ironman distance triathlon, whatever you want to call it. But because I've done those before, it didn't really matter too much to me, so I just had to get on with it. Still, of course, ran and dived in, and in my head it was a majestic dive because it's a time trial format start. In reality, it probably wasn't. But I dived in, my goggles remained on, and I got straight into my swimming stroke, and that was absolutely fine. Something really helped me was I put a bottle of water down my wetsuit, like in transition before I started. Gets that cold water shock out of the way a little bit, and I think then you keep that layer of water in you and it gets warm, so when you dive in, yes, you'll have some water coming in, but not as much, and it doesn't really affect you as much. That's a top tip. I got into my swim stroke and I started swimming pretty hard, to be honest, or as hard as I dared for what I thought was going to be a 750 meter swim. I was on my own for the perhaps first half, and I mean on my own as in when I dived in, those that had been in just before me were 10 meters plus ahead of me and I couldn't close the gap, and those behind me hadn't passed me yet, so I was just sort of like just on my own. Then about halfway around I started getting passed by, I think I lost about 4 or 5 places in the swim, and each time I tried to get on the person's feet that was coming past me because I know it's a benefit, and I just couldn't. Even though they weren't absolutely flying past me, I was trying to surge, but because I was already swimming pretty hard, I didn't really have a kick in me, and I was trying to get on the feet and I just couldn't. But I swam as hard as I could. It measured a little bit long, I think it was about 830 or 840 meters, and I swam in 14 minutes and 23 seconds, which I'm pretty happy with, contrary to what Liz said. She was right in what she said in the race day video. I would have been disappointed if it was 750, but if it was around 800 meters, 850 meters, that's absolutely fine. I think what's also more important is that I compared that to people in my age group, people who I know, how did I perform against them, and actually I was pretty happy with where it stacked up, so job done. On to transition 1. Now, if you've done Ironman Wales, you cannot moan that any other transition in the world ever is long. It is a decent run though, from the lake to transition, I'll give you that. It's at least a couple of minutes. I was breathing pretty hard from a hard swim, so I don't think I ran very fast. My T1 was about 4 minutes and 40 seconds. When I got into transition, I didn't put socks on because I had toe covers on my shoes. I had some gloves in my helmet, which I just stuffed down my tri-suit because I was going to put them on the bike. Helmet on, shoes on, and then I was gone. So I didn't really mess around. I had gels in my pockets already, but I was just not able to run very fast. So my transition was about a minute down on the competitive transition times for the day, but not the end of the world. Got onto the bike. Now, because the swim was shorter, it was pretty congested on the bike. I was in the second wave to start, so numbers 100 to 200, which meant that when I came out on the bike, there's people all around me. And generally, I normally try and work my way through those people, but the group that I found myself with were actually riding pretty hard, or I was riding hard enough and I was in the group, so I didn't particularly want to go to the front of the group and try and attack off the front or get away. It actually felt okay. I stayed in the group I was in, and of course, a couple of people drop off, we scoop another couple of people up, things like that happen. But generally speaking, the group was the same for the first 7 or 8 miles. And then we hit the only like proper climb. It's about 2 minutes from bottom to top for me. So it wasn't a huge climb, but I think I did something like 430 watts for 2 minutes. So it was still a decent dig just to sort of try and stay with this group. When we got to the top, I knew that, okay, if I'm going to try and get away, because sometimes you sat on the back of a group and you think, oh, this is too easy. Sometimes it's too hard. It's really hard to gauge. When I race, I'm 95% of the time racing my race, not anybody else's, and that's what I wanted to do. So when I got to the top of the climb, I noticed a few people were just sort of recovering a little bit from the climb, so I just thought I was going to press on for a few minutes, pressed on over the top, and it was a really fast section down there. It's probably 2 or 3 miles of ever so slightly false flat downhill with a decent tailwind. So I got a good nudge on down there. There was a segment that was about 5 minutes long. I think I averaged 32 to 33 miles an hour. Because I've got time trial gearing on my bike, 50/80 tooth chainring, I was able to get away from that group with one other person. We then rode together for probably 10 miles or so, maybe 15 miles. When I say together, the guy was riding really strong and I sat at 12 to 15 meters behind him for the majority. I probably pulled through once or twice and I didn't really do much, I don't think, because he soon came back past me. And I was thinking, great, this could work really well to the finish if he's going to let me sit behind him all the way. Unlikely though. We got to around 30 miles and we were then turning left into a headwind and a bit of a draggy uphill. And I knew that that sort of place is the place where it's better, it's more efficient to put out more energy there because you're going to keep the average speed higher. Then I knew there was a little descent over the top of that. So I pulled through at this point in front of this other guy. I came onto the hill and pressed on a bit, and then the road narrowed a little bit. There was a coned off section. I went past a rider, and then I wonder if this other rider got held up behind that person or not, because then it went down to like one bike width. I went over the top of the climb and he wasn't there. I wasn't going to sit up and wait for somebody, although it might have been faster if I did. I just carried on riding. Then I rode pretty much on my own until about 45 miles or so, when I caught up with another gentleman and he said, I went to go past him and he said, I've been on my own for ages, didn't think anybody else was here. So then he rode with me for a few miles and then he actually pulled through and took some real strong turns, so that was really good. It's my first proper experience of trying to ride in group dynamics and try and ride with other people, and there's a definite advantage to sitting 12, 15 meters behind somebody, absolutely. And whether you disagree with it or agree with it or not, you're racing against people who are doing that, especially if I look at the times at the front group road. So my statistics, let me have a look. I've skipped through all that. 56.9 miles, 155 beats per minute, average 270 watts, normalized 275 watts, variability index of 1.01, 2 hours 21 minutes dead and 24.2 miles an hour. Now, I've seen some stats for people who rode in the front group and who rode between 2 hours 12 minutes and 2 hours 13. And a couple of them put out quite a bit less power than I did, and that's absolutely fine. They're the race dynamics that you're racing against. I wasn't in the first start, and even if I was, I wouldn't have swam anywhere near fast enough to get out with those guys. But the reality is that if you can swim fast and get out with fast cyclists, you're then going to ride faster for potentially less power. And that's motivating to me as an athlete. So I was happy with that. Fueling wise, I had almost 2 full bottles of full steam carb mix. I'd mixed them a little bit stronger than I do normally. I'd say there's about 90 grams of carbs in the two. And I also had 5 OTE super gels. I had one 10 minutes onto the bike after I got on the bike, and then I had one half an hour thereafter. So I got through 5 gels in 2 hours and 20, which is 290 grams of carbs. That's quite a lot for me. I don't normally take on that much. I don't think I could have that same strategy for a full distance. I don't think I could stomach 10 gels, for example, and 4 bottles, but I felt good. I didn't feel like I was forcing the food down. I enjoy the taste of those gels as well. So I think I'm onto a winner there, I think, with half distance fueling. Into T2, a bit of a slow dismount. I don't have it in me to do the Super League dismount. Socks on, run out of transition, feeling good, feeling like, okay, I feel like I put myself in a position here to have a good run. When I finished the bike, I felt like I was within myself. I didn't feel super tired, I didn't feel like I'd blown up, and that's strange for me. So yeah, I was ready to go. The run course is undulating. There are a few rolling hills, some of it's grass, some of it's tarmac, some of it's gravel. That suits me. I like the rolling courses. I can break it down in my head. Okay, it's a 3-lap course, so 4 and a bit miles a lap. Okay, I'm going to push on up the hill on this lap, then I'm going to ease off down the hill, and then it helps you break it down and get through it. There are a few aid stations on course, good support at the aid stations, but the first lap was pretty quiet. I think I was well inside the top 70 or 80 getting onto the run course, and because you're on a 4.5 mile circuit, and a lot of people are already on the first lap, I wasn't getting lapped yet, and I also wasn't catching anybody who was a lap behind yet. So it was pretty solo, but it was quite good just to absorb it, just to settle in and focus on your heart rate and your pace and things. My heart rate was pretty high. It had been high all day. I wasn't worried about it too much because I thought, well, I know I need to ride this power and run this pace, so I'm just going to play it by ear. First lap of the run, so I'm going to break this down. It's a 3-lap course. I ran it in just over 31 minutes 10 seconds. The second lap, I plan to do the same and maybe start pressing a little bit if I felt good. I actually ran a minute slower, 32 minutes and about 10 or 15 seconds. And then I think some of that was down to just complacency. It's quite easy, I find, to switch off in a race. When you're not really in a race, like I know I'm in a race, but I'm not racing side by somebody. I'm not racing for an overall win. Sure, I want to do my absolute best and I want to get the most out of myself. But when it's starting to really hurt, those little demons come in your head, don't they? And they say, you're doing really well, you're doing fine, just ease off a bit, you're doing all right, that's fine. Yeah, I wanted to run some 140, 141's fine, 142 is fine, you'll be all right. And it just sort of tricks you into that, but I tried to battle those demons away, and coming on to the last lap, I could see 140 slipping away. My pace had dropped to about between 730 and 740 per mile, and I couldn't do the maths in my head, but I knew that if I was drifting towards 745 and upwards, 140 was going to slip away from me, so I thought, right, when I get to 10 miles, I was on like 9.8 at the time, when I get to 10 miles, I'm going to run 10, 11 and 12 hard, like as hard as I can, not flat out like I know I've got another mile to run, but I'm really going to press on. And somewhere in there, I came across a lady who competes for T3 Triathlon team. I had to get over the fact that she said she knew Harry Palmer. I pretended like I'd never heard of him, but I got over that eventually. But we ran a couple of miles together and she really pushed me on. Just having somebody running next to you, sometimes we were talking, sometimes we weren't, but it just really helps keep you pushing when you go over a little hill, just to push on over the top, cross-country style, and keep pushing down the hill. It's really, really beneficial. So when I got to 12 miles, I'd ran 3 like 7:20, 7:25 minute miles, which was really helpful. And I knew then with a mile and a little bit to go, I had about 10 minutes to cover that to be under 140. So I knew that I had 140 in the bank, save for anything going majorly wrong. And that lap was also about 32 minutes. So although it was the same time as the second lap, but the effort level required was so much higher because it just gets hard, doesn't it? I made loads of notes, I've just skipped all through it. So my running chip time was 1:37.57, so really happy with that. If I'm honest as well, I had been more demons in my mind, debating in my mind constantly whether my Ironman Cork 70.3 performance on the run was in any way affected by me spending 20 minutes stood at the side of the road trying to fix my chain. Sometimes I think, no, it didn't affect it at all. Sometimes I think, well, you've had 20 minutes recovery, so therefore you'd run faster there than you could have done. So I'm just so happy to run about 90 seconds slower here on a tougher course than I did at Cork on a flat course. So that just reiterates to me that that is a true reflection of where my run fitness is at. And I'm really happy with that. I haven't done anything special in my running this year. Matt at the Wooden Oak Coaching has been a great help to me, guiding me in my run training. I've certainly not stacked loads of miles in. I've been running between 20 and 30 miles a week consistently pretty much all year, and I think that's paid off with the intervals he's been setting me as well. I did a lot of steady running, but my running has really come on, especially with me not being in the best physical shape I've ever been in. So yeah, really happy with that. So I finished in 4 hours and 20 minutes overall, 55th overall and 9th in my age group. I don't want to do shoulda, woulda, coulda, but if the swim was full distance, I think I'd have been somewhere in the low 440s if I'd have swam 33, 34, 35 minutes, something like that. I'd have been around there. So all in all, a good day out. I love the course. I love that it's on my doorstep. I love outlaw events in general. This is not a sponsored post, but I think the big events are cool, like Ironman Wales, etc., and they are brilliant, but there is something good about just being able to park up in a field and you walk 2 minutes to transition. There's only one transition. I know, like Ironman Cork was a split transition, for example. Having a field of 800 or 900 athletes, like you still get that big event feel, but there's not massive queues at the Portaloos, there's not massive queues at the burger van, all that sort of stuff. Like I think it's a good balance. The feel at outlaw events is similar to bigger events as well, because you've got tri-clubs running the aid stations and the volunteers and staff are great at stuff. So definitely going to be doing a few more outlaw events in the future. A few of them are pretty local to me as well, and they've been a big part of my triathlon journey. My first middle distance triathlon was in May 2016 at the Outlaw Half Nottingham. So good job they don't pay me, because I keep trying really hard not to say the word Ironman. Anyway, waffling, that is it. That is the end of my sort of race debrief. I feel like I'm always very positive about races, but genuinely I'm really happy with that. However, I do want more, and I'm going to cover that more tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you're all right. See you then.